Hey friends, welcome back to Gardening Suburbia. My name is Amanda and I am currently getting ready to start my 4 to 6 week starts. A majority of this is flowers and some herbs. One of those large goals that I have for this season, which there are many, is to make sure that I'm planting a really good space for pollinators. So pollinators are really important when it comes to gardening, which is one big reason why I do not do pesticides or herbicides or any of that, just because I don't really want to hinder pollinators. So I'm planting a whole bunch of flowers to help bring those pollinators in, to give them a space that they can collect the pollen and get their fill of nectar and go ahead and pollinate all of my beautiful plants and herbs and vegetables. And I really just, it's a big goal, but I'm excited to actually be starting this many flowers this year. I think in years past I don't think I've actually ever started any flowers indoors. I've always sown them outside. So I've done chamomile, nasturtiums, echinacea. I do have one echinacea plant outside. I don't know, we'll see how it goes. Echinacea takes about 2 years for it to really get established and then to go ahead and flower, which is why I'm going to be starting a whole bunch of them today, because I really want a whole bunch of these. I love this plant. I think it's so pretty, and it is one of those that comes back every single year. And I love that. That's less work for me and, you know, gives a space for pollinators, because typically pollinators will find a flower or group of flowers that they really like and they'll just continuously come back to that spot. So if I plant something that's going to be there for years to come, I'm all for that. I'm also planting a whole bunch of different herbs. Some of the herbs that we cold stratified, so I've got those lemon balms, the mandarina, and then the limoncello. I pulled those out of my fridge today. I went ahead and I did a little bit of a different process. The first process that I had originally showed you guys was putting it in a damp paper towel in a plastic baggie. I found that it did create a lot of mold, so I had some pink and greens and blacks growing in that bag. So I went ahead and I just tried popping just the seed packet as is, not damp, in my fridge. We'll see how that does. I don't think that the lemon balms really have too tough of a time with germination. It just kind of helps it. But the Bells of Ireland, this is a flowering, kind of like a green filler for like vase flowers. I tried planting this or starting this indoors last year and I had no germination. So I put this in the fridge to help with germination this year, because it does need to be cold stratified. So we'll see if we get a better success with that this year. Future me and you guys will know more on that, but right now we're just going to be trying our hand at it. I was going to plant some sweet peas as well. This is one of my mom's favorite flowers, and I think I'm going to be doing a kind of like a garden. She has a balcony at her current place, and so I'm going to be doing a little garden balcony for her this year. So if I start some sweet peas, I'll be able to give these to her, which will save me some money. But these need to actually be soaked in some water for about 24 hours to help the outer seed shell to loosen up. You can either do that or nick them with nail clippers or to file like a filing nail. But I'm just gonna put them in water. So I went ahead and I grabbed a little glass of water, and I'm just gonna put these in this glass of water, and then tomorrow I'll go ahead and plant these out. They look like little peppercorns. So got those in there. I am going to keep my tag and this guy nearby so I know what it is. I shouldn't forget though. I'll just leave this here to soak overnight and we'll plant this tomorrow. I went ahead and I kind of pre-arranged everything so I know how many plants I need, and I'm going to be using these kind of like peat pots. I think these are Jiffy. I do like these because you can basically plant this and it's biodegradable, so it should break down in the dirt. My only quarrel with it is that I feel like a lot of the time I end up just peeling this outer part off of the soil part, or the soil block, and just planting the soil block and then kind of putting this in my compost. But I have them, I'm gonna use them. They're gonna work perfectly fine for getting those seeds to start, which is my only thing for you. If that's what you have, it's gonna be perfect because you're gonna get some plants out of it. Use what you have. I'm gonna actually be starting sunflowers probably 2 weeks before my last frost. Frost is April 24th. I'm gonna be using egg cartons. That's what I used last year. I really liked it, so I'm gonna use it again this year, just for a little, why not? So I need to go ahead and get all of these filled with soil, so I'm gonna go ahead and do that real fast. We're gonna go ahead and start with this tray, just because it's gonna be a little simpler. The nasturtium seeds are pretty big seeds, and I'm only gonna be planting 1 seed per little pot. I'm gonna put this one over here. So pretty typical with seeds. I already laid out my plan of where I'm going to be placing these with my little tags. I'm going to be starting a bunch of nasturtiums, and I think the majority of them are going to be actually going up in my front garden. I get a lot of sunlight up there, and I want to start my flowers from seed this year, and not saying that I won't go to a garden center and be wooed by all of the beautiful flowers, and I probably will purchase something because there are a couple greenhouses in my area that I am thinking about going to visit because they are getting ready to open come Monday, which is the first day of spring here. So that to say, I'm going to be starting a lot of nasturtiums. I'm actually going to try to finish off my 2 varieties that I have. I've had these for a couple years now. Seeds really do not go bad by the sell-by date. So this one is from 2021, 2022. They just simply are the regulation of the USDA of when seed companies need to have seeds sold by. Seeds will lose their germination percentage will go down with each year. Unlike onion seeds I've heard after a year, like it drops by like 50% germination rate. So those are a little different, but most seeds you will still get a pretty good germination rate a couple years later. There are stories of seeds that have gone couple decades of just chilling out in a basement in a dark, cool space, and then being germinated 30, 50, 60, 100 years later. Crazy stuff. So nasturtiums are the ones that I'm going to be starting today. I have the Ford Hook Favorites mixed colors. So like a reds, orange, and yellow blend, and they're kind of variegated, which is super pretty. So that's when there is a variation in like a color that can either be on the leaves or on the petals of the flowers themselves. And in this case, it's on the petals. Nasturtiums are actually edible. They have a very tangy flavor. It's kind of like horseradish. I do this every time. I need to water my soil first. So I'm gonna grab a pitcher of water and then I'll water everything and then we'll start planting. Everything's been watered. It is now time to actually plant. So Ford Hook is the one that we're starting with. That's the nasturtium. I'm just gonna create divots. I'm actually gonna go ahead and create all the divots for the nasturtiums just because I'm planting 1 seed per hole. I want to go ahead and just expedite that process. That is a lot of water in there. I'm gonna go ahead and top this one with some fresh soil just because it is super wet. All right. So on the burpee seed packet, it says that they need to be planted at a 1/2 inch of a depth. So I'm basically just making a divot that's about 1/2 inch with the end of my Sharpie here. I don't mind getting my fingers dirty with soil. I don't wear gloves when it comes to gardening season because I feel like I have more control, and I really am a tactile person. So I like to get my hands in the soil, which is why I'm not wearing gloves right now. So I'm gonna go ahead and just drop 1 seed per hole. And I'm not gonna cover these just yet because I want to see which ones have been planted. I'm pretty sure my Ford hook, I have a couple seeds extra, so I'm just going to go ahead and double plant a few of these cells, which will be perfectly fine. But since these are such large seeds, I would recommend just one. But I want to go ahead and get these used just because next season I want to get a different variety of this, and I want a really big flower show this year. So next one up is a jewel nasturtium. Ooh, so this one is actually a double spurred edible bloom with 2 to 3 inch blooms. And this one's actually a climber, so this one will vine. So I think the Ford Hook Favorites variety I'm gonna actually plant near my front porch. My front porch has a wrought iron beam and some fencing around it, so this will be a good place for that to grow as well. Gosh, I can't decide. I actually have blue cathedral bells, which I believe is a botanical interest variety. They're super pretty. I've heard some reviews of the seed say that they didn't get as many blooms. Maybe I'll just kind of mingle the nasturtium and the blue cathedral bells on my front porch for that really pretty, like, super draped look, but we'll see. Okay, so next is the jewel mix, and I'm pretty sure I have enough for all of these to get 1 seed per hole. They look like little mini brains. I took anatomy. I was actually going to do, I still potentially could, do nursing. So I did take an anatomy class not too long ago, and I got to see a brain, which is, it's a weird experience, but it was just so cool, and these look like little brains. So we've got all of our seeds in the cells. We're gonna do the echinacea next. So it is a perennial in zones 3 to 10 here in the US. I'm in zone 6, so I will have hopefully plenty of beautiful echinacea. This is a medicinal herb as well. And you guys know that I got a whole bunch of medicinal herbs, which I did go ahead and plant last weekend or during the week sometime. And some of them are starting to sprout, so maybe after this we'll go ahead and go up and check on those. So these need to be planted at about 1/4 inch of depth. I'm gonna go ahead and just create a little divot. And then I'm gonna plant a couple seeds per, oops, plant my echinacea with my nasturtiums. All right, the next one we are doing is going to be some Greek oregano. I do actually already have some of this out in my garden, so I'm only gonna be doing 2 little parts for them. I'm gonna be putting this in one of my Greenstalks. I've got 2 leaf versions of the Greenstalk. That's the type that has shallower pockets. It's more versatile for like leaf and herbs and some flowers. But it's for those plants that have a shallower shallower root system. So I'm going to be doing some of my Greek oregano in there. Plus, going to be saving a whole bunch of herbs this year. So I'm going to go ahead and just sprinkle these on the top, just because you're supposed to barely cover them. These seeds are teeny tiny, so I'm just kind of lightly dusting them over the top of the soil surface, and then I'll kind of scruffle them around, not a word, scruffle. I'll scruffle them around on the top of the soil surface, just because you don't want them to be buried so deep, because those seeds really only have enough energy to get to the surface, and if they're buried deeper than the energy that they have stored up in the seed, then they're never gonna reach the top. So I'll go ahead and move those guys around just with like the tip of my pencil here. I'm not gonna do anything too crazy. All right, that's perfect. Okay, so the next variety that we are doing is the Dill Mammoth, and this looks so burly and dense, and I love dill. I love pickles. My favorite pickles are the bread and butter pickles. And I really want to save more dill this year because it is just so good. Plus I can make some, what is it called? So a lot of these varieties you do not have to start indoors. I'm starting this indoors just because I want to go ahead and try it, but you can direct sow a lot of these. Again, I'm just getting a head start. It's really up to you what you would like to do, but this is what I'm doing. So with these guys, you need to plant at 1/4 inch of depth. I'm just gonna create little divots. And I'm planting a couple little cells of these. And then just drop a couple seeds per. And then we're gonna do some parsley. So again, I have some parsley already out in my garden. I believe it was a burpee plant start. So I'm gonna go ahead and actually start some myself. I have two varieties. I have the extra curled dwarf variety, which only gets to be about 12 inches tall, which is pretty similar to what I have outside right now. And then I also have the fairy morse extra triple curled. So they're pretty much the same thing, but a little bit different. So we'll go ahead and do the extra triple curled first. Both of these are container varieties, which I feel like most herbs can be grown in containers, which is really nice because you could even just put them on your windowsill. You don't necessarily need them to flower or have them be pollinated for them to produce what you're harvesting. Both of these are 1/4 inch of depth. So I'm gonna create little divots for these and then pop some seeds in. And then lastly is that extra curled dwarf, which I think is going to be one of those varieties that I put on my balcony. So I had someone suggest for the balcony garden to do an herb garden, and then I had another person suggest some really hot peppers, and then another person suggested jalapenos. So I'm probably gonna do all of those. I think I'm gonna do a little bit of everything. maybe not every variety that I've planted, but like a tomato, a cucumber, some herbs, some flowers, but a little, one of each variety, like one of each category. All right, so we're just gonna go ahead and smooth the soil over all of our seeds, and then this tray will be nice and planted, which is awesome. I'm super excited for spring to be here, which she will be quite shortly. Monday, today is Saturday, Monday is the first day officially of spring. I've looked at the weather forecast and it does seem that is going to be warming up a little bit, not too much, but we shouldn't be getting any more cold weather. Although this morning I woke up to snow. Not anything that was like covering the ground. We did have a light dusting of snow, but it wasn't anything like we've seen. So we're not quite out of the cold yet, but we're getting so close. And I'm definitely excited for the warm weather. I'm excited to be out in my garden enjoying the plants, the bees, the butterflies, the birds. Not so much the squirrels, but they have their place. So a fellow YouTuber that I love watching is Jess from Roots and Refuge Farm. She is so kind and I love her energy. She was recently talking about having a place out in the garden that you can go to that's not quite like you want a good spot in your garden to go to sit and enjoy and take in all of the beauty of your hard work. You don't want your garden to just be a place that you go to work. You want it to be a place where you can go and relax and, you know, get your few minutes of vitamin D from the sun, soak in some warm weather, and just sit back and relax. So that's a suggestion from me to you, from Jess over on Roots and Refuge, is to make a spot in your garden that's just for you. Make a spot where you can sit down and relax and read a book or paint your nails or, you know, do what makes you happy. Being in the garden definitely makes me happy. Being outside, soaking up in some sun, watching my dog be crazy out in the yard definitely is some things that I enjoy. All right, seed tray. Well, I don't know how many we've done so far. I think we've done 6. So seeds tray 7 finished. I really don't think I have many more seeds to sow inside besides, I think I'm gonna start some sunflowers inside. So this will be the last day of seed starting that we will do together for spring, summer harvest. So let's move on to the next one. It's sad, but I'm really excited for the weather change. All right, so the next set is a lot of flowers and some herbs. So I have some German chamomile. I love chamomile tea. It's one of my favorite things to sip on at night, especially since I've been getting some really good honey from my friend May, who is a beekeeper. So she produces her own honey, she takes care of her bees, she gives back to the bees, and she really is trying to push the word of how to protect our pollinators. So I love supporting her. And her honey just adds to chamomile tea. Although I will say I've been buying chamomile tea. I'm hoping that this year I can start saving flowers and producing my own chamomile tea from my garden. So these seeds are also extremely tiny. I have found well more than I'd like to say scattered throughout my seed box. So we're gonna go ahead and start some of these. These do require light to germinate, so that means you want to surface sow them. I'm going to try my darndest to plant these 5 cells here and not anything else, but we'll see because they're so tiny. So I'm just gonna go ahead and tap some seeds onto the surface of these little cells. And I'm hoping to go ahead and plant these everywhere in my garden. And I think I'm gonna finish this seed packet because I do have another one of this exact variety. I think this is actually a seed packet that I purchased off of Amazon. This is So Right seeds. I think I only actually got chamomile from the seed company. So that pack is finished. I'm gonna leave this row for our sweet peas. I may plant a few more than this, just because I have a couple of different seeds and I probably will use all of them. So we'll leave this row for the sweet peas and move on. So this is another variety that is definitely okay to start outside, just sowing in the ground after that frost. I love cosmos. They are very invasive though, so I would warn you, if you are planning on planting cosmos, to do it in an area where you're not going to be upset if they spread. They are annuals, but because of the type of flower, they will drop seeds and then they will come back next season. So I currently have, I don't even know what variety it is. There are yellow, reds, and oranges out in my garden right now, right on my walkway down my stairs. So they have come back every year. I've planted them a couple years ago and they just keep coming back. I love them because they make really pretty, cute little bouquets to put around the house, and the bees just adore them. So I wanted to plant a kind of ruffly variety that is a little bit different color, and I think these are they're really pretty. So these are from Baker Creek Rare Heirloom Seeds. So I'm just gonna make some divots, and I'll probably plant 2 to 3 seeds per pocket. And this is also probably another variety that I will. Okay, so as someone who's renting in a suburban area, you don't really see wildflowers growing on that little patch of grass right between the sidewalk and the street. But I had my water line dug up in that little patch of grass, and right now it is mud. And I could sow grass, but that just sounds boring to me. I drove past this one house the other day that had that patch of grass. It wasn't grass. It was all sorts of wildflowers, including cosmos. And it was just like this big bushy, like pollinator's paradise. And I want that. And so I won't lie, I got this thank you seed packet from the Buffalo Seed Company of the rose verbena. And it is a wildflower, and it attracts bees, hummingbirds, and butterflies. I had cold stratified it, but I won't lie, I did go ahead and put it in that little patch of dirt by my street. We'll see if the neighbors get upset about that or not. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. Maybe my landlord will get upset. I'm sorry. I love flowers. I love creating little spaces. And I just don't see why we are stuck to having houses that just have green grass? Why is that the norm? Why is spraying herbicides and pesticides on grass to remove dandelions, which are like the bees' first food of spring? That's where the bees go, is the dandelions. I don't understand why that's the norm. I'd rather have a front yard full of wildflowers for the pollinators and the hummingbirds and the bees to come to than for my grass to be green just because it's what's normal. Rant. So the next set of seeds we're going to be doing is cilantro. I love cilantro. It goes in all of my salsas. I like to chop my tacos with cilantro. I'm going to just go ahead and plant these about a 1/4 inch deep. Create my little divots. And plant like 2 to 3 seeds per. So the next variety is our Johnny Jump Up Viola Helen Mount. This is a perennial, and I liked how it was a mix of the blue, purple, and the yellow. I'm not typically someone who plants pansies or violas, but I'm gonna do it this year. And it'll just be nice to have something that is perennial. It is a variety that likes part shade, and I do have some areas that only have part shade, not for the full sun. These seeds are quite tiny too. These need to be about 1/8 of an inch deep, so I will create a very small divot, and then we'll just kind of sprinkle some soil on top of them. The next is sweet basil. This is actually a packet that I got from Greenstalk that came with my Greenstalk that I got. I think this was my first Greenstalk. I got this because I think this year's Greenstalk I got seeds for I got seeds for carrots. So this is just sweet basil. I'm gonna do about a 1/4 inch deep on these as well. So just create a little divot. And I'll probably just plant out this entire packet full of basil. Alright, the next is our Shasta Daisy Alaska variety. I believe this is a perennial as well. I'm gonna sow this at about a 1/4 inch depth. They've got pretty little seeds. So create some little divots. And then we'll plant like 3 to 4 seeds per pocket. There's that one. The next is our Mission Giant Yellow Marigold. This is a really pretty variety from Burpee. It's an original Burpee heirloom from the 1950s, brought back with even higher quality. The large chrysanthemum-like flowers will add color and texture to garden or bouquet, which the bouquet part is what got me. So these are going to be planted at about a 1/4 inch depth. So again, another little divot. And I'll go ahead and create the divots for the other marigold variety as well. And I'll plant 2 seeds per pocket. The next marigold is the key lime marigold. I thought this was a really stunning color. They also have really long stemmed flowers, which again is nice for a bouquet. We're gonna have some really beautiful bouquets in my house this year with all of the different varieties of flowers with their textures and colors and different lengths. 2 to 3 seeds per, and then save the rest of those for next year. Just go ahead and cover those bad boys up real fast. I'm kind of just taking out the chunks of mulch that I find and just throwing them at the bottom of the tray, just because I don't want them to hinder the growth of the seeds. If they're in the way of the seed may not pierce through the surface of the soil. So I'm just kind of getting rid of those and tossing those to the side. The next is our limoncello, or the lemon balm mandarina. This is one of those varieties that we cold stratified. And I think I'm actually going to, I'm only gonna do about 3 of these just because I don't want, I don't really need that many. So this is actually a variety that has a habit of crawling out of containers and spilling from hanging baskets and pots. So I think this is gonna be a really awesome variety to put in a hanging basket on the balcony. Plus, I'm kind of excited about this one because I can also throw this in some tea. So having some mandarina lemon balm with some chamomile tea, that sounds so good. Okay, so we're gonna just barely cover these guys. They need a surface sow with a light covering. So make sure we put these in the right little spots. So I'm just gonna tap a few seeds. And we finished that container. The next one is our limoncello lemon balm. I'm actually not a big fan of limoncello. I was actually able to go to a city in Italy that pretty much their whole city is covered in everything that could be limoncello. The liquor, they had like little lemon figurine, like it was a city of lemons. It was beautiful. I'm not a big fan of limoncello though, but I am going to be planting some limoncello lemon balm because I think it'll be good in some tea. And it also has the habit of crawling out of pots. So I think both of the lemon balms are gonna be great for our balcony garden that we're gonna be planting out together. Which I'm super excited for. I think I'm gonna actually try to go to some thrift stores this weekend and see if I can find some pots and planters to put things in, just because I don't really want to be spending a whole bunch of money creating that space, but I do want it to be beautiful, and if I can find something that is pretty cheap, I'm okay with that. So I believe this is a surface sow as well. Yep. We'll just sprinkle those onto the limoncello cells. And we finished that seed packet. All right, the very last seeds that we are starting today are the Bells of Ireland, which I really hope germinate. We will find out together. This needs to be well, this seed packet doesn't really have any information about sowing depth or anything, but when you sow seeds, you want them to be twice as deep as they are wide. These seeds are fairly small. So I would say about 1/4 of an inch for these guys. Any smaller and I would do 1/8 of an inch, or just placing the seeds on the soil surface and then dusting with some either some light soil or just kind of, you know, scratching them on the surface. So we're gonna create some little divots about 1/4 inch deep. And I am starting 6 of these guys. This one is kind of an experiment because I will have to kind of train these guys to stay straight up. So they will need like a flower netting type grid. So like kind of like a fishnet grid, but you put them over the top of where flowers are coming up to hold them straight. because these guys do have a tendency to flop over just because they get so long. They need that extra support. So we'll see what happens. I may, this may be a fail, but that kind of comes with the territory of being a gardener. Whether you're a first-time gardener or a very seasoned gardener, you have fails, you have successes. It just kind of comes with the season. You never know what's going to happen with Mother Nature. She could decide to bring you a really hard freeze well after, you know, your anticipated last frost. Or you might get a hailstorm, or, you know, just some really hot weather. Hot, humid, dry. Maybe you got no rain in the last few days. It's just kind of, it's up to Mother Nature. Well, that is all of our seeds for our 4 to 6 week starts. I am 5 weeks out, so we still have some time. I could have waited another week to start some of these, but I wanted to go ahead and get them started. I hope you guys have been having a wonderful season. Spring is literally knocking at our door, and it's just a matter of time before it is time to plant these guys out. So I hope you guys will join me for that journey that is ahead of us. In the meantime, if you guys want to go ahead and enjoy any of my other videos, I'll go ahead and pop one up here for you. But in the meantime, thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you in the next one.